Om lokaha samastaha suki no bhavantu. May all beings be happy and peaceful. Hi, everyone. It's Phoenix. Happy Monday. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. So, I'm going to do my best to bring more brevity to my live streams. And because I find that I myself get too scattered when I cover too many altcoins, I just want to cover what I'm really hyper focused on as far as altcoins. Bitcoin and Ethereum are obviously going to be the main focus because they're dictating the rest of the market. And just briefly covering the Dixie and the S&P 500 because they correlate. So before we get into the charts, if you haven't checked out my courses and my online materials, you can do that on my website, DeFiMagic.com. As always, these are my own personal views. It's not financial advice, just simply stream of consciousness. So, hi, Adam. Hi, Node and Whimsy. I'm not sure about the music. I'll look into that. I do have the track, but I have to remember, I have to look up the name of it. Yeah, I liked it too. So let's start with the Dixie today. This obviously looks like a reversal on the daily. There really has been only upward momentum for the last 3 days since Thursday of last week. And it clearly, this was clearly a swing fail pattern, deviated back inside, broke above this range, and now it's headed even further north. So that is bearish for all markets in the short term, at least. I would expect at minimum a pullback, which we have seen so far with the S&P 500. Now crypto is another story, and we'll go into that in a moment here. But looking just at ES, which very closely connects to the S&P 500, you see we had this sort of over-under pattern. It got just above, I believe this is a quarterly level here. And here you see resistance, broke above, deviated back inside, resistance, second time resistance, third time, and then slight deviation above, broke back inside, and now it's struggling to hold above this here. Excuse me. So this is bearish, at least short term. Again, I'm trying to get away from using the words bearish and bullish because I don't want to give the impression that it's usually taken in an extremist sense, and I don't mean that. I just mean that at minimum, I would expect a pullback. And so the levels that we would expect a pullback to for this would be 40.50 for the S&P at minimum. Okay. Now I'm actually expecting it would probably come down lower, somewhere at least 3,900, and then we have to reassess from there. But in the meantime, we have Bitcoin, which is still hovering around 23K. It's right just below the monthly open here, which was at 23,200. So we had that sort of over under pattern on the monthly, which I'm usually very wary of this when I see it, especially after a big strong move up. You see what happened here. It did come above it, and then it got back below. Okay, so actually, why is that? No, monthly open, I need to adjust this. So it was, yeah, slightly lower here. So we have 23,150. It really depends on the exchange you're using. This is the index, so it's taking a variety of exchange data. But this is potentially setting up for, maybe it's an evening star on the monthly, we'll see. So that is something that we want to be paying close attention to. Now, I currently actually already have several short positions open. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Phantom. I've been in and out of Phantom. Litecoin, Aptos, and I believe that's it right now. So I will focus predominantly on those. But Bitcoin is still in a range here, so we haven't really seen the breakdown yet. This is not really a breakdown, but it could happen at any moment. So that's what sort of I am anticipating. But I do want to play out the scenarios in either direction. I want to be as neutral as possible moving forward because I know I tend to lean towards one side and just cover those setups. So I just want to play the probabilities here in either direction. So looking to see conservative entries for Bitcoin shorts. Now, of course, I've taken some aggressive entries here, and that's just gauging the sentiment in the markets, gauging what's happening with the Dixie and the S&P and the stock markets today and last week. But if you wanted to be conservative for entries for Bitcoin for shorts, obviously we would want to wait until the breakdown beneath this level here, this 22, I would say 22,500. And then any sort of consolidation weakness fails to break back above, that would be a short trigger. A lot of people are bidding currently at 22,000, between 22,000 and 22,500, believing that it will just maybe deviate and come back above again and then rip higher. Now that's a possibility. I'm not going to rule that out, but I'd be watching it very carefully as it gets down at the lows of this range here. From here. And I would give more credence to the argument that we're going to see more downside if it does that, because as I showed last week, this is a distribution pattern. This is an upthrust, and this here you could label the upthrust after distribution here. So the final upthrust, the final fake out here. Now maybe there's another one, who knows? It could play out any way it wants to, in which case being prepared here, maybe there's a long potential here if it could clear back above here. Personally, I do not like the looks of a long from here. If it gets back above the monthly open and then starts to consolidate here, maybe conservative small size long here, maybe looking to target somewhere up 23,800, and then finally maybe 24,300, maybe let some ride just in case it breaks up even higher from there. But what we're seeing today so far, we did see what looked like a stop run, and I pulled out of some of my trades. I actually took profits, which is probably a good thing because I was able to get back in again. But it didn't really pan out into much, at least not yet. Now we see this kind of doji candle on the 4H, the last 4H candle that we saw after this bounce. But you see there's all these wicks here. So there's definitely been some, still that the bulls are still very, very stubborn and very much, I don't want to say they're in control because it's sort of like a stalemate right now, but this could go, it could go fast, and it could happen actually right around the time that I'm live streaming here. It could happen right around now, because a lot of the times what I notice is that after when stocks close on days like today, when we're looking for key reversals, the stocks have given, and the Dixie has given all the signs that we're at minimum going to see a correction here. And I would say a 10%, 15%, 20% correction is really not all that unusual. Actually, it would be healthy and expected. And actually, the longer this plays out like this and drags on, the more suspect I am that it's probably going to actually head a lot lower. So a lot of people are saying, well, we'll never get to 20K again. A lot of people are bidding at 21,400. See this level here. That's a 7% correction from here. So, I mean, it's possible, right? But then it could go much lower. And so even 20,400, that would be 11.5% correction. And it could come all the way down to back down to retest this level here, which was that key level 18,600. That would be a 20% correction. I don't know. I mean, it could do anything. There's no way to know for sure, but this was the deviation, and we got back inside the range and shot all the way basically close to the top of the range, and now struggling from here. So maybe it comes back and retests this. But this does look very much like an accumulation range here. And it's just kind of been dragging on. Now, if I were to just look at what we've seen here, I would say, well, this is still bullish. But I'm not just looking at what we're seeing here. And that's where I think a lot of traders are going wrong right now. If you look at the bonds, if you look at equities, if you just look at other markets, look at gold and silver as well. And they've pulled back. And so I just wouldn't be surprised to see this really dump hard and fast here. And I'm personally, as far as targets to the downside for Bitcoin, let's say your entry was somewhere 22.3 to 22.5. First targets would be somewhere maybe 22.4 or 21.4 here. And then down here, this is 23.380 or so. And then if it breaks down below here, then we're looking somewhere in the mid here. say somewhere like 19,360, and then all the way down to 18,600. Okay, so those would be some targets that I would be looking at to the downside. Now, I mentioned in my group yesterday that I don't necessarily take profits all the time, even though I set them in the trades that I share in C3, because I am against the 90% thinking where everybody says you should take profits along the way. I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing that you can do, but if you know what you're doing and you understand momentum and you can read the charts and kind of adjust as you go, then sometimes, let's just say that we see a very strong red candle headed into this 21,400. I'm not going to take profits here because I think it's going to go a lot lower if it does that. But if it sort of stumbles around and barely gets down there, then I probably would take profits. So I'd have to sort of see it as it plays out. Now, it's always helpful to take profits if I were, say, going to bed and you just don't know what the price is going to do. But if I'm able to actually monitor the trades throughout the day, which I am today, then even though I have these take profit levels, I'm not necessarily setting them in my exchange. So hope that makes sense. Now, when it comes to so targets to the upside, again, just I would be conservative here. If it did get back above here, I'd be looking at 23,600 and then maybe up here, maybe just above here, 24,300. And then if, again, we had these targets last week, somewhere in the mid here, which would be about 24,780 and then 25K. But as I mentioned, I think 25K is a crowded trade. There's a lot of people that want to short here and they're waiting for this to happen. So it probably won't happen. That's just my 2 cents on it. So with Ethereum, Ethereum actually looks stronger than Bitcoin. And as of today, it's up 0.6%, but this could be faltering here. So, I mean, this looks like a higher low that's just put in here on the 4H. So hard to say right now. It did push above the mid, but it's sort of been over, under. If it gets back under this mid level here, then I think Ethereum is going to fall a lot harder than Bitcoin. And I have a much larger position on Ethereum than Bitcoin. That's where most of my focus is. Most of the position sizing that I have at present is with Ethereum, and it is riskier right now. I was originally in around 1660. That was the average. I took profits as it started to push up, and then I got back in right around, not too much higher than it is right now, actually. But you can see here, this actually does look like a evening star pattern. So I would be personally surprised to see Ethereum just rip back up higher again, but maybe it does. And so in that case, it is still above the monthly open here, this level here, 1626. And actually that has held as support so far. It did dip below multiple times, but it's now currently above that. But if it gets back below, this could actually be a short trigger. So if we get a strong close, maybe on the 4H below this level here, the 1626, that could be an aggressive short trigger. And that's also a breakdown from this trend line here. Okay, so that would be an aggressive move for Ethereum. Now, as far as looking on the conservative side of things, you could take a look at this trend line here. It's pretty similar. I mean, that would actually be what I would be looking for. I'm not going to wait until it gets all the way down to 1517. That's for sure. I would be looking, if I wasn't already in this trade, I'd be looking to get in probably somewhere around 1625 if I see it really break down from here, somewhere under this level, because we have some confluence between this diagonal and the monthly open here. So then I would be targeting to the downside. I think Ethereum could fall. I think that actually both ETH and Bitcoin will probably fall further than people expect. That's usually how it goes, because I think there's going to be people bidding all along the way thinking that, oh, I'm finally getting my chance to get in now. It's going to just rip higher again. And it'll just probably keep going down. And that's just kind of how it goes. Just like with the last trend that we just saw, which is now coming to a close, at least it appears that way. People were thinking, man, I wish that I could have gotten in. So all of those people that were really trying to get in before are now probably have bids set at these key levels here. So maybe at around 1500, and then maybe down here, 1425. I would be surprised if it didn't come down to 1425 at minimum. and it could go lower. But so those would be some key levels here. Let me mark them out for you. So assuming that we got in somewhere over here, this level here, 1517, and then here, there's a little bit of a ledge here at around 1464, but I'm not really going to bother with that. And then actually, I would ultimately be targeting somewhere down here. Wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. I really wouldn't be surprised. And if that happens, then alts are going to get completely obliterated. Yep. And Phantom is one that I actually was shorting up here, boldly shorting this, and got out of it. Should not have gotten out of it, but actually I'm happy because some of the members of the group actually profited off of this. So, but I made some money still on the way down. Now Phantom is still above the monthly open, but look at this over under pattern. And I was showing on Friday how this range, this is a pretty big range here. And if we could consider actually, if it gets back inside beneath this 52-cent level, then here's a big range that we're working with. You could be targeting somewhere down the mid here, which let's just mark that out. Let's mark that out here and see. Oh, that's not what we want. Mark that out right here makes sense, right? Now you might be thinking, well, it doesn't seem possible that Phantom could come down that far. Well, look at what it did in the last 3 days. After all of this, I mean, how much of a move was that? Like 400%, something like that. I mean, from here, this was a 300% move, okay? And so far, it has come down 17%, okay? So put it in perspective here. Now, we're looking for weakness, continued signs of weakness here. So I think a daily close beneath this level, and I'd be looking to get back in on a short. So I'm paying close attention to these monthly levels here. But conservative entry would be beneath this 0.5214 breakdown from there, and then targeting all along the way potentially, but ultimately this 0.3656, which that's actually still, even if you entered somewhere over here, that's still a 29% drop from there. So if Ethereum comes down anywhere in the 1300s, would it really surprise you if Phantom came down to 0.5432? Now, I mean, it's hard for me to project longs here, but I will do that just for those of you that are maybe still bullish on this. If it comes back up and reclaims here, and we don't see like these massive wicks, and it's not putting in a lower high here, then I would say, and it starts to really consolidate, and the rest of the market is also pushing back up, and Bitcoin's maybe at 24K, then in that case, then I would consider a long here for Phantom. But it seems kind of silly to even be entertaining that right now. Bitcoin is starting to come down slightly, in Ethereum as well, since we started this stream. So we will see. Let's see with Litecoin now. Litecoin actually just retested this level. Litecoin, this actually looks like a pretty juicy entry to me. You can see the bottom of this range here. What do we get here? The breakdown initially usually comes back, retests, and now we have a pretty strong red candle on the hourly rejection there. So this could actually already be a potential entry right now for Litecoin. I got in Litecoin lower. I'm still in Litecoin, but look, you see what's happening? Watch this candle closely in the next 10 minutes and see if it closes anywhere at or below 97.35, then I would be shorting it. It wouldn't even be a question for me. And I would be placing my stop loss probably. I'd probably have an aggressive stop here. So probably like a 1.5% stop. And then I'd be targeting all the way down. Ultimately, I would say I would be targeting down here. Maybe I could have a conservative target here. But that's a pretty big, that's almost a 5R. to 7. So I just gave you a trade here if you want to take it. And we can follow up on this and see what happens with it. But yeah, if Ethereum continues to break down from here, there's no question Litecoin's going to as well. And if you look at this, I mean, does this look really, you know, I mean, look at that. There's your confluence, right? I mean, we have this trend line here, this range low here broke down, this trend line, and I don't know where the monthly open is, but it's probably below it at this point. So Litecoin's looking pretty juicy to me right now for a short, especially after all this. Here was your retest and your short squeeze, mini short squeeze. Now, optimism has been surprisingly strong, but I think that's about to end here. I think, especially after this candle here, this also looks like a distribution pattern, but it's too early with optimism. An aggressive entry, obviously, it's a gamble because we did have, it's been stronger than the other alts, but optimism is definitely long overdue for a pullback at minimum to 245. That's what I would say. I mean, can it push higher? Yes, but first it has to clear, it would have to clear this level here, this 312 with some strength. And we see right now, it already made one attempt today. And you see the length of this wick here. So what are the chances it's going to do that again? I wouldn't be taking longs with optimism. Now, Aptos, I do have a short position with Aptos. And it's funny, I entered this here and then they ran it up like right after I entered it. And I actually had to hedge it and I made some profits off hedging it. But now I'm actually back to break even on that trade. It was kind of sweating it out for a minute there. But Aptos, actually, notice how it's obeying. See, these lines aren't arbitrary here. You can see these levels here. This was a support level here. Now it's flipped into resistance, not once, but 3 times. Little slight deviation, broke down below. So I think Aptos is headed much further south, targeting minimum 1166. Could have a take profit somewhere in the middle here if you wanted to be more conservative. And then I don't know what these lines are here. It's hard to look at this because there's this one candle off to the left on Aptos and it throws off everything. If you see that, it makes it hard to read the chart. But yeah, I mean, Aptos needs to, I mean, I think Aptos at minimum is going to come down to 1166. It could go much lower. It's long overdue for that. It's already down 3% today. And it's been sort of stumbling around up here. This is an obvious, we're in a downtrend now with Aptos. That is for certain. But if Aptos can come back above, just to play the bullish side here, if it can come back above here, then this would just be one giant deviation. If it can reclaim after this first failed attempt, which again, there's less likelihood that it will do that after having just done that with an instant bearish engulfing candle to follow that, if you notice here. Okay, so we had the instant bearish engulfing that followed this massive. So this is evidence that we saw a stop run. Okay, but now if it does come back above again, just entertaining the possibility here and holds here, then this break above here would be the long trigger. Okay, for Aptos, because this would then prove to be a deviation. And I'd be targeting, this is the monthly open here for Aptos, 1672 would be initial targets. And then I'm looking at the bottom of this range here, which is 1735 for Aptos. AVAX, I had a short as well. AVAX, this one is basically, it looks very similar to Aptos in a lot of ways. But a conservative entry for AVAX would be, and again, if this actually can come back above here and hold, which again, at first time it failed to do that, but if it can come back above, break above this pattern here, break above these highs here, then I'd be looking to long it, assuming that Bitcoin and Ethereum are showing some relative strength. But as far as the short scenario, if it breaks down below this 1979 level, and then it holds below, then I'd be looking to short it down. Minimum would be, let's just mark that with this marker here, 1776. And then we're looking at somewhere in the mid here, probably these lows here, 1660, and then this weekly level here, 1530. And it wouldn't surprise me to see it come that far down again. But even 1776, that's a pretty far drop from here. Let's see where we're at right now. It's 11%, which it is a large cap, right? So 17% for 1660. But a lot of the times what I do with alts is if I see, Ethereum and Bitcoin are just sort of paving the way. So if I see that they're starting to show signs that they want to really reverse, then I'll cover my alts. I'll close my positions out. That'll be the first thing that I'll close out. And then I'll see if Bitcoin, Ethereum, I'll maybe trail the stops on that and see how much further they're going to want to go. Because the alts are, people have asked me multiple times, should I be trading the alts if I'm just starting out? And I say, no, I wouldn't do it because they're very unpredictable and can be very aggravating as they were this morning for me. And actually, I myself prefer to trade Bitcoin and Ethereum at this point. Even though I've made a lot of money trading alts, I've also lost a lot of money trading alts, and it happens really quickly. So you just have to be prepared for big, strong moves in either direction. And that's why if you're just starting out, the biggest, most important thing is that you're building your confidence. And the best way to do that is to take smaller wins with Bitcoin and Ethereum. So let me actually turn on the chat because I can't see it. Okay. Hi, Brandon and Ben. Sushi. I don't want to look at sushi. I don't care about sushi. Yeah. So that's basically all I've got for you guys today. How long have I been streaming for? Not too long. That's basically it. I mean, we're waiting to see, but I think that we're going to break down here. I think it's going to break down. I think it's going to happen hard and fast. And I think by tomorrow we could be seeing 1500 Ethereum, and Bitcoin could be down 22,500. And then maybe we get a bounce. Maybe it bounces at the range lows. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it pulls down below, deviates back inside, gets everybody back in again, and then crushes down even further. But you've got to be prepared. And taking profits along the way is not a bad idea in this sort of a market, in these market conditions with the thin liquidity that we've been facing. It's been very frustrating, much more so even than Forex and stocks. And I haven't been trading Forex, but I've been trading stocks. Forex I probably should have been trading the last couple of days because I would have been a lot easier for me. But even stocks have been more predictable than crypto. It's even for Ethereum to be still at 1638 right now is pretty remarkable. I don't know. I mean, they're propping it up pretty good right now. So we'll see. Maybe there's one more really strong run up. There's no laws as to how many times they can spike the price up. But I do think that we're getting much closer to the fall. So yeah, so let's see. I think that's all that I've got for you today. Keep a close eye on these: AVAX, Aptos, Optimism, Litecoin, and Phantom. I'm not, all the other ones that I've looked at, I haven't seen anything that's really been worth trading. And that's just my own perspective. I don't, if I see something that stands out, I don't really like sushi that much here. But if sushi, yeah, I don't like this. Let's see if we can find. Yeah, it's not really something that I would want to trade. Maybe if it got back, but by that point, we're already well into the downtrend here. I think sushi is going to head south, just like all the other alts. But when I look at alts, I just look at what has the highest reward for me. What's probably going to go down further, and faster without as much resistance along the way. And the reason that I don't like sushi right now is because of all of this. Okay, so even if you short it here and it breaks down here, and then maybe it just chops in here for a while, and that's just super frustrating for any trader. And so what you're looking at, like, I mean, it's like a 10% move by the time it gets there, but I like Phantom a lot better because it's just a cleaner chart. So I hope that you all found this helpful, and I'm going to hop off here. Again, I just want to keep these streams really brief and to the point. And please like the video if you haven't already done that. It does help to get it out there, and comment if you're appreciating this format, or if there's other things that you want me to review in the live streams. So have a beautiful Powell speeches tomorrow. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really care about Powell right now. I'm kind of tuning him out because it doesn't really, yeah. To have a beautiful rest of your day. We'll talk about Powell, okay? Maybe in the C3. And I can't end my live stream because this TubeBuddy thing is in the way. Okay.